Welcome to the Wild Type Podcast. I'm Neptune the Chameleon.
I'm Lyssa Lizards.
And we're your reptile girlies. And we are back from the LA Pet Fair.
We are back. I'm happy to be back.
Yes, it was a fantastic expo, a fantastic weekend. I would go again if I wasn't so exhausted from it.
I would literally do it next weekend if I wasn't like drained completely.
Yeah, in like the best way.
Yeah, the best way.
The best way possible.
Yes.
So we're going to give you guys a recap. This is our first time going to a Reptile Super Show.
Yeah.
For years, people have been telling us, like, you got to check out the Reptile Super Shows.
I mean, we've heard for so long that it's like the Reptile Super Shows are next level, completely different than some of the other ones. And I that is 100% correct.
Yeah. So the Reptile Super Show has multiple shows throughout the year. So we went to the Pomona one.
Yes.
Which was really unique because it was the first time they were combining.
Yeah.
Typically the Reptile Super Show, it's in the name, is just a reptile show. But this one, they decided to combine it with a fish show and a bird show all in one spot, all in the same weekend.
It was crazy. I mean, honestly, like, I genuinely don't feel like we had enough time there. I don't think 2 days is enough.
And we got there at opening.
And didn't leave until everybody was shutting down their booths.
Yeah.
So we were there
the absolute maximum amount of time.
Whole time. And I was like, it's not enough. It's
because
not
we've
enough.
gotten to other shows where we like rolled in a couple hours after I'd opened, and then we always run out of time. So we're like, not this time.
No.
We are getting there when it opens.
Especially because we knew in advance that it was going to be
big,
crazy jam-packed. And also, like, we wanted to make sure we were like thorough and saw everything on the reptile side.
Yep.
But then we also obviously wanted to explore the bird and
the fish stuff. Yep.
So
totally.
We wanted to make every minute count.
Yes. So I think we should start with just like the venue itself, because that was a new venue for us. So it's taking place on fairgrounds, which is the first time I've seen an expo do that, because a lot of them are at convention centers or even like school gymnasiums or stuff like that. So this was probably the biggest venue. I would say bigger than Tinley.
It spanned, so like the reptile building was obviously the biggest building because that show has been going on for a long time, but it was 3 buildings in total.
Yeah.
And all of the real estate, like in between, all of like the spaces in between that, there were like vendors
booths,
spaced out throughout that too.
They maximized that space.
Oh my gosh,
I think beautifully.
Yeah.
So the venue I think was great. It was a bit outside of LA, so depending on like if you're local to the California area or if you're flying into LA or however it is you're getting there, like that's something to be thoughtful of. That LA is probably the biggest city nearby, and it was a little bit of a
I would say no traffic, about 45 minutes, probably 45
minutes. Yeah. So just something to be thoughtful if you're deciding you're like gonna go check it out. But I think the parking situation, if you get there early like we did, was great. I feel like it would have been terrible if you rolled up midday. I do have a qualm though with the pricing.
I know, that was the one thing.
So pricing was $18 a day, and we were there for both days, and then it was $20 to get into the show for the whole weekend. So it was $10 a day.
It was
to get in, and then it was like double that just to park a car.
So all in all, tickets included, parking included, you'll spend about like $50, which isn't crazy, but it's a little more than some places. So you know,
well, I guess it's closer to 60. 20, 40, 60.
Math isn't my strong suit.
No,
we know this.
It's all good.
Good. This is why I'm a content creator.
And then you throw in some food in there, so you're looking probably like $100 if you don't buy anything.
And that's also if you go both days. Not everybody goes both days.
Yeah, most people go one day. We were like, we are going both days. Whole shebang. Yeah. So I think pricing for the tickets to get in
was
fabulous.
Awesome.
Probably the cheapest I've seen. But I mean, I wonder if that's because they know the parking's a little
that would like make a lot of sense in my eyes. But it was great because honestly, a lot of expos that we go to actually charge per day.
Yeah.
So that was one where it was like, I think with tax and all of that, it was like $22, but that was for the whole weekend.
Yeah.
So I thought that was great. Yeah.
And you get the birds, fish, the whole shebang. So skipping past over venue stuff, let's talk reptiles. Like first impressions walking into the Super Show.
Honestly, here's the funny part. For me, the very first impression, like walking into the room, was very typical. Like I walked in and I was like, okay, this is like, typically any like expo building that I walk into. But then once you get going,
It's deep.
It's deep. You start looking and you're like, I'm not even halfway in.
Because it was like 3 or 4 rows, but they were like...
Right.
It was really long.
And I feel like, too, because Zoom Ed is one of, like, the sponsors of most reptile expos, they're always, almost any expo you go to, the Zoom Ed booth is going to be, like, front and center for the most part. And so that was, like, very typical. So that's what I mean when I walked in, my first impression was like...
Yeah, we saw the Timberline booth, we saw the Zoom Ed booth. They're at almost every show we go to.
And those are always right there because they're big sponsors. And so, like, you walk in, and at first I was like, oh, okay, like, it's not that big. But then we kept walking, and I was like, what?
It keeps going and going and going.
It doesn't
and going
stop.
And going. Yeah.
Like, it was crazy. So first impression, I was like, meh. But after that, I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
This is crazy.
Also, as soon as we walked in, we hit up the Timberline booth because we love talking to Andy over at the Timberline booth. And so we're like, hey, Andy, how's it going? Da-da-da. And like, Andy was one who always told us to go to the Super Show, so we wanted to make sure we said hi. We were talking to him for like maybe 30 seconds.
Yeah.
And then someone comes up to us and they're like, oh my gosh, listen, Neptune.
It was so fun. So if you were listening and you came right up to us, we adore you. It was the best.
It was the best. And so we like say hi. We love taking pictures with you guys. We always have our like cool sparkly podcast stickers.
Yeah, that is pro tip. If and when you ever see us out, please say hi because we want to give you stickers.
Yeah. And probably take a picture with you. Like, this is a big deal for us,
it's
too.
It's so fun for us.
So then we said hi, and then we're like, hey, back to Andy.
Yeah.
And then someone else comes up and says hi. So within, like, the first 5 minutes, we had 2 different people come up and say hi to us.
It was like a double whammy. I was like, oh my, hi.
Yeah.
It was so fun.
It was awesome. So, okay, so that was, like, first impressions. I would say I was similar. Yeah. Like, where you were at, I was like, oh, okay, reptile show. Yeah. I thought it was pretty packed though, like with people.
Yes,
like there was a lot of foot traffic, and I feel like the shows we've been to recently, while there is a steady flow of foot traffic, it wasn't like as big as this one was.
Yeah, no, this one was pretty crazy. Like there were, I would say, I don't know, like 60-70% of the time walking around in there, it was like almost shoulder to shoulder. Like it was very packed. We were like weaving in and out of people almost the whole time.
While doing that, try having someone stop you. As much as we love taking pictures with you guys, I'm always very considerate of the people around me. I'm like, I'm literally standing, and we're usually 3 deep because it'd be like you, the person, then me. So we're like 3 wide,
taking up like the whole aisle.
Yeah, and then people who are like, who are these girls? Like walking by us, and I'm like, okay, this isn't weird. Oh yeah, that's the only thing that I'm like.
So if we ever like direct you off to like the side to keep talking to you,
it's because I'm so mindful of everyone else around us.
It's also because we want to keep talking to you, and so we want to like pull you off to the side because we just don't want to like. Exactly. So.
Yeah, totally. Okay, so let's talk animals.
Yeah.
Because the variety of species at this show is, I think, obviously the size of it, the amount of people we were able to meet, fabulous, but also like I think what took this show to the next level was the sheer amount of variety of species and stuff that we've never seen in person before.
I was absolutely like shell shocked. Every direction I was looking, I was like, I never see that animal at expos. I never see that animal at expos. I've never even seen this one ever in real life. That's crazy. I mean, it was like the variety, the amount of different species that were there that we have never even seen at shows before was mind-boggling. Just the variety in terms of like even just the amount of like chameleon breeders was crazy. It was like it was easily one of the coolest things I've experienced in terms of variety. It was
very diverse, whereas typically, in contrast to that, when we go to shows, we see a lot of ball python breeders, we see a lot of crested gecko breeders, we see a lot of Leo breeders, and then we'll see like some tarantulas or something like that. Maybe one chameleon breeder, maybe one dart frog breeder, and that's the extent of it, and you're like, cool.
Yeah.
Been there, done that.
Is fine. I mean, I love it and enjoy it, and I'll never not love it and enjoy it. But
100%. But then you have this show where, like, to your point, you're like, oh, look at that, oh, look at that. In addition to all the other stuff,
it just blew me out of the water in terms of the diversity.
So I wrote down some animals that stood out to me, and then I'm sure you'll have some. One that was really cool was seeing a Parson's chameleon breeder.
Yes.
So and I also wrote down tons of chameleons. Yeah. So we probably saw 5 or 6 different panther chameleon breeders, where again, in contrast, we will be seeing like maybe 1 or 2 at a lot of shows we go to.
Maximum 2. I mean,
and I think this speaks to California shows like Pomona. California as a state is more popular for chameleon keeping because of the temperature. Like a lot of breeders have outdoor enclosures. So I don't know if that's it or or what, but there was just a lot of chameleon breeders, but I've never seen a Parsons breeder in person. Whenever I've seen Parsons at expos, they're wild caught. Yeah. And they're just like reselling them.
No, it was insane. That was like easily one of my favorite booths.
They were little baby Parsons.
Little nuggets. They're so cute. All chameleon babies are cute, but I personally am just such a sucker for Parsons babies. I just think they're so much cuter than any other chameleon babies.
They also have color, right? Because a lot of panthers are these little like tan chicken nuggets. Right. Like they don't have their colors yet.
Little gray blobs.
Yeah. Whereas like the Parsons, there was like some really stunning greens and blues. One
of them was like a vibrant blue. Yeah. And I'm pretty sure that it was Herp Time that bought that one. So really jealous. Yeah. Really jealous.
So that was a big thing for me was to be able to see those.
No, I completely agree. For me, probably the most exciting one was getting to see the Mexican beaded lizards.
Really? That's the one you're picking?
No, I mean there's multiple. Which one did you think I was going to pick?
The Borneo lizard.
That was next. That was my number 2.
Okay, number 2. I thought that one was going to be number 1, and then the beaded lizard would be number 2.
I think just because I have never seen a full-grown Mexican beaded lizard. First off, I have never seen any Mexican beaded lizard in person ever. So seeing the babies was cool, but then there were at least 2 or 3 full-grown ones there. Yes. And that was just insane to me because...
there were a bunch of them, right? So like we started on like the far side aisle. We were working all the way down. We were like being very intentional, like zigzagging our way through. We make it maybe like 6 booths in, and we see the Mexican beaded lizard.
I freaked out.
Then I at least saw like 3 other booths that were also selling the Mexican beaded lizards.
The babies, I would say, I almost want to say I saw like 4 or 5 booths.
Yeah, because the fact that we saw that first one, we're like, oh my gosh, can't believe it.
I freaked out.
And then we kept seeing them and seeing them. Yeah, because we just don't usually see those.
Which was shocking to me. But so just to be clear, Gila monsters, which are my personal ultimate dream, my 2 top dream species are Gila monsters and monkey-tailed skinks. And Gila monsters, I think the reason I was so excited to see the Mexican beaded lizards is because it's the closest thing to a Gila monster. And you just can't see Gila monsters in California because they can't be sold because they are protected species there.
It wasn't even an option.
So, but I've just never seen one, and I am not freaking kidding you guys. The adults are so much bigger than I even thought possible.
Yeah, they're like a small dog.
No, it was insane. It might as well be like a tegu or like
very similar size.
Very
to
similar.
A tegu.
Yes, like
they're a little more narrow. Like tegus are a little thicker.
Beefier. Yeah, for sure.
I feel like the beaded lizard was a little skinnier and a little longer, and of course, every individual is going to be like slightly different size, but that was kind of and the nails were like crazy long,
and I could totally be wrong, so if I am someone, please tell me because I'm genuinely curious. I think that Gila monsters stay a little bit smaller than the Mexican beaded lizards.
Oh, okay.
I'm pretty sure, but again, somebody tell me if that's not true because I want to know the answer either way.
Yeah, the babies were adorable though.
The babies were so cute with their little, because they have the big old forked tongue, and that's like my favorite thing. I love the giant forked tongue on them, and it was just so cool to see. Yeah. Oh my gosh, I just lost it. It was
those were really, really cool to see in person.
So freaking cool. But the one that you mentioned that is my other obsession, and I'm 99% sure this was the only animal of this entire species there, but the Borneo, if I'm saying that correctly, the Borneo Earless monitor. It was a tiny little baby.
Peanut.
It was a tiny, tiny little baby. It was captive bred, which is crazy to me. I actually asked a couple of people too, and apparently they're not as hard to breed as I thought they were. But it's still a pretty like rare species to find.
Yeah, I think if I remember the price, it was what, $2,900?
I think it was over $2,000. I think it was or maybe $2,800, something like that.
Just under $3,000.
But it was a captive bred baby, and it was, and I asked Armin, who's Herp Time, he's the one who was selling it, and I think he said that his friend had bred it, but it was only like a few months old. It was a like baby baby.
And so I'm trying to get like footage of this because I'm working on depending when this podcast comes out, a cool vlog for the
I'm so excited for your
expo
vlog.
And I'm trying to get cool footage of this Borneo guy, and like people are like looking at the geckos next to it, and I'm like, do you not
see what's in front of you? This is crazy. I genuinely think that that's one of those species that like if you're not deep into the hobby, you don't even know what it is.
Oh yeah, it just looks like a brown lizard.
It doesn't look that impressive, but quite literally, it looks like a semi-aquatic dragon with no wings. Mm-hmm. It is crazy.
Yeah, and it was like kind of submerged in the water there. Yeah, it was really cool.
It's like easily, that's definitely up towards the top of my like dream species one day. I would love to have those guys because they don't get like massive. They're a pretty
I know nothing about them, but
they're so cool. I'm getting more into the semi-aquatic species with Tarzan, my yellow anaconda. So maybe that'll be my next semi-aquatic venture one day.
Love it.
We'll see. But
yeah, so that was on the list. One other one, stunning boas is what I wrote down. So here's the thing.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
When we go to shows, we see tons of ball pythons, we see tons of boas, but I felt like the quality of the ball pythons and boas and just like even some hognose that we saw, like they were just some stunning animals. Literally
some of the colors that I was seeing on these boas are colors that I have just never even seen in person. It was insane.
Yeah.
There were at least two booths.
And we've seen a lot of boas, a lot of ball pythons. Like we always see them at shows. But for whatever reason, like some of these were just
crazy. I mean, there was at least off the top of my head, there was one booth that I was like floored. I ran over and like, I'm pretty sure we were in like mid conversation and I was like, nope, gotta go see that because that's crazy. Yep. Like it was one of those where they had like one of those clear acrylic towers.
Kind of like displays.
Yeah, like a display. And it was like 3 or 4 stacked. So there were like 3 or 4 snakes snacked. Delicious noodles. No, it was like 3 or 4 stacked boas. And it was like the third one down that I was like, I have never seen anything like this. It just, the contrast of the animals was insane. Like, oh, it was just so cool. So crazy boas. Another one that I was really, really excited to see was I saw a lot of Ivory line blue tongue skinks. So this is specifically northern blue tongue skinks. And I know Tiki's Geckos had a couple at their booth.
Yeah, there was a few others.
But there were several others. And a lot of them, they were like pure white, like ivory line.
I have not seen an ivory blue tongue in person. So
that was
those
cool.
were beautiful.
That was so cool. And Nilla, my northern blue tongue skink, she's like what's called like a pale classic, which is cool. But like, and I love that she's like a little bit more on the pale side. I just find it really interesting, but I have never seen one paler than her. And this one was not even a comparison to Nilla.
It was a white skink.
White.
Yeah.
It was crazy. The two blue tongue skink lines that I think are the coolest are the melanistic, which is all black, and then the ivory, which is all white.
Yeah.
I just think it's...
It'd be cool to have one of each and have like yin and yang.
Oh, that would be cute.
Because their body shape, like kind of has that same
when they're curve. When they're like the solid color, the blue of their tongue just makes it even more striking. Yes. So it was so cool to see. I've never seen one in person.
Those were stunning.
Yeah.
Okay, one I wanted to call out were the Croc skinks.
Yeah, there was quite a
table. So they were most likely wild caught.
Yeah.
I'm like 99% sure the guy said they were wild caught. But there weren't nearly as many wild caught tables as I've seen at previous shows. And the wild caught animals I did see seemed to be in like good health.
I was actually shocked by that too.
And like I'm sure there were some there, and we can't see every single animal at every single booth. But generally speaking, I thought the wild caught booth animals were like in pretty good shape.
I will say, this is a shocking statement. So this might be a little bit of like a big statement, but I don't think I saw like one animal, and tell me if I'm wrong, that was in like horrible condition.
You're wrong.
Oh, really?
There was those Jackson's chameleons.
Oh, I forgot about the Jackson's chameleons. Okay, I'm wrong. I knew I would be.
There's always some animals that aren't looking great.
That's why I was like, this is a big, bold statement. I don't know about that.
No. So there was a table that had these Jackson's chameleons, and there was probably like 30 at least in what was a way too small enclosure, and they were in really rough shape. And those were most certainly wild-caught Jacksons, which there's not a ton of Jackson's breeders out there. Right. So like I'm totally mindful that like
of course,
likely wild-caught, but those were in rough shape.
Yeah, you're right. I was wrong. My bad. There's like, always some. There's
I know
always
where this
some.
is going, and that's not.
There's always some. But regardless,
a huge difference though from previous shows we've been to, and for the most part, you're right. Like there were really good looking
right.
wild caught specimen, including these Croc skinks. And the guy probably had like at least 10 of them.
Yeah, there were a lot
on his table. And I was like, I have not seen that many Croc skinks in one place.
Typically we see like 2 or 3.
Yeah.
It's very rare to see that many, which was really surprising. But like you said, in general, I was really surprised and happy with the amount of wild caught animals or lack thereof, just because I'm the type of person that when it comes to wild caught animals, I know for a fact that like obviously that's very needed, and we've talked about this in previous episodes, but when it comes to reptile shows, I just don't like seeing them being sold to the general public as much.
And someone next to me like straight up asked the vendor, was like, is this wild caught, or like, did you breed these yourself, whatever it was, and he was very forthcoming. He's like, no,
that's great,
these are wild caught imports, I've had them for this amount of time, so they've been in captivity for, you know, blah blah blah, and gave his whole spiel. And I was like, I just appreciate the honesty and transparency, because I feel like you're either okay with purchasing a wild-caught animal, or you know the nuances and extra considerations that come with that. And if you don't know, then you can't know to do that. Yeah.
But just because of that, like obviously I'm just a big fan of like, you know, breeders need to do that. So when it comes to reptile shows, them being sold to the general public, I think should be a little bit less of a, you know, thing. And so it made me very, very happy to see that. And the one, like you said, the ones that we did see weren't in terrible condition.
Not at all.
That was great.
So also on that table, it had the Croc.
That makes me think of
Emperor's New Groove. I know. Croc skinks. Say that 10 times fast. Yeah. There was that snake that you were like freaking out over. It was like a brown, like water snake or something. Is that jogging your memory?
Oh, I'm pretty sure it was a Sunbeam snake.
Okay, was that it?
Yes, I'm pretty sure.
It was like brown, and you're like, oh my gosh, and Nava was like, I don't know what it is.
No, it's a Sunbeam snake, and that was also probably wild caught. We don't really see those bred in captivity at all, but they're kind of like a darker color, but if you hit it in the right light, they can be really iridescent.
Oh,
so they're crazy cool, but they're also a burrowing species. So
burrowing.
That is one of, for anybody who wants to look them up, the Sunbeam snakes, they're really freaking cool, but they're one of those pets that you will literally never see because they will be buried in dirt the whole time.
Got it.
So
I just remember you were like, look at it. Yeah,
I got
when you were freaking out.
Real excited about that one.
Speaking of species you were freaking out over, we gotta talk about the monkey-tailed skink.
He was so cute.
So we were walking again through these aisles that have so many vendors, so many animals, and I look over to my right and just chilling on top of one of these display cases
out in the open,
monkey-tailed skink, and I was like, look! I
freaked out,
and she's like, what? She's like, and then
I proceeded to talk to this vendor for a good 20 minutes while you went off and talked to some chameleon breeder.
Yeah. I'm good for like 5-10 minutes, but she was asking like care questions.
I was getting real technical
in like the Facebook group, and I was like, you need that because you're interested in keeping them.
Not only am I interested in keeping them, I've been like a spectator in this monkey tail skink Facebook group for years, and this man who was at the vendor is the admin for that Facebook group. So I was like, I have so many questions to ask you.
Right, which is so great to talk to the guy directly about. I was
awesome.
Like, I'm going to skedaddle over here.
It was
so
so
I just
cool.
went and like talked to a chameleon breeder for a bit. So
I do the same. When you're talking to a chameleon breeder for 20 minutes, I'm like, I'm going to go over here.
Yeah. But I was thinking about this as we're like zigzagging through these aisles, because you'll spend a little more time at one and I'm like, and then I'll go to another, I'm like, oh, this one's cool, and you're like, you know, like we both have things that we think is cooler, and we don't even say anything. No. We just go and like do it, and then we meet back up together, and then we split, and then meet. Like, it's this like unsaid language, right? We're just like zigzagging, but we're like together, but sometimes
we're never more than like 3 to 5 booths away.
Yeah.
But I just know that you'll be in the vicinity waiting for me to finish, and vice versa.
Yeah,
it's just like, but I think that's the beauty of us having gone to like a bajillion shows together, that it's just like we've just like formed this like silent language of like, I'm over here, you do your thing, we'll regroup.
Yeah. But then like I'll hold back, and then you'll hold back, because then maybe you want to like film something, or I filmed it, so I'm good, so I'm gonna move, and you're like, you want to film that too, you know. And so it's
very much like an unspoken language in our friendship.
Like a little dance.
Yeah,
we do. Like we're just zigzagging through these aisles, like not even saying a word to each other.
And I have to say this too. I'm so sorry, Logan. I love you so much, my husband. But this is why I don't like bringing him to stuff. Because that sounds so terrible. But he has come to like 1 or 2 shows with me in the past, and it's great and it's fine. But when he's there, I don't get done what I want to get done because he's like just such a novice with things that like he doesn't always know what's what, or like he has questions or he like anything. And so I'm mostly sitting there like explaining things the whole time versus when I go with you, it's just like, we know the game plan. We know what's up. Yeah. We like just handle business. So sorry, Logan. I love you so much, but I'd rather go with her.
Yeah, just different intentions, right? Of like what you're doing. Happy July, Reptile Girlies. A new month means new deals over at our partners, Pangea Reptile. We are always so appreciative and grateful for their support of the podcast.
This month, for any of our bioactive girlies, we have some serious deals on Dalmatian mix isopods and papaya isopods. So if you're wanting a new cleanup crew or just looking to refresh yours, this will be a great option for that. If you're in the market for a new gecko, we have 15% off crested geckos and 20% off Saracen's giant geckos, which are so cool. Be sure to check those out.
Pangea always has deals going on, so head on over to pangeareptile.com to shop their sales. Okay, so then you saw the monkey tail skink. That was really cool.
So cool. He also, this is just like a funny little side story to the monkey-tailed skink. He had actually just bitten the owner.
Oh.
So FYI, I didn't hear that part. I don't even know if I told you this because we were so busy, but he had like, I think within like 20 or 30 minutes of us coming up, he had bitten the owner like on the arm because he was just like done being handled, which is why he was sitting on that thing.
Oh, he was in timeout.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it was super funny. So like and the guy was telling me that he trusted the animal enough to like chill there, but the animal had already communicated that he was like done with handling. And so I just thought that was really funny because I had noticed on his arm and he ended up just bringing it up. He was like, he actually just got me. And I was like, oh, all right. And they have, monkey-tailed skinks have like a pretty intense bite.
Fun.
So
fun,
it's
fun.
Definitely not something you want to happen, especially with your fingers. They can literally like do some serious damage. So
speaking of animals biting vendors, maybe we should talk about the yellow anaconda.
I freaked out, guys. I freaked out.
So this was end of day 2.
Yes.
Okay. So then we go, like, we've already done the birds. We've done the fish, which we haven't even talked about yet.
Oh my God, this episode could go on forever.
And so we're going back. Yeah. And, like, we're just, like, kind of making our way. And you go, oh, is it? And then, like, that's literally all you said was,
and
is
I
it?
Darted away.
And then you're like, oh, it is.
It's just because yellow anacondas are not a species that I see at shows hardly at all.
And the display box was tiny.
This big.
Maybe like 2 inches big, 3 inches wide.
So small.
She spotted it from like across the aisle.
I mean, when you know a yellow anaconda, like pattern, you don't miss it.
Yeah.
Like you don't miss it. And
but
so
I'm not. I'm like,
right.
What? How did you even?
But I spotted that from a good like 10 feet away. And so I spotted it and I ran over and it was a male and a female. And the guy that we were talking to actually was not the breeder. It was like a friend of his. And so vendors will do that a lot. For anybody who doesn't know, vendors will often like sell some of their friends' animals or whatever. Some people will share tables or booths, which is cool. So that's what this guy was doing. And it was a male and a female. And the female specifically was a granite, which I have never seen in person before. So that was also really cool. It's like,
which is like the coloration,
the patterning.
Okay,
the patterning. So it's just a little bit more like spotted.
It kind of looks a little pixely, right?
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
That's
so
what
like
I thought.
so like normal yellow anacondas have like the big big black spots all over the yellow body, but this granite one, the spots are a little bit more like dispersed and spread out. So it's just not as like big spots. But I had never seen a granite before, and it was so cool. So then
you were fangirling over it. Then this guy just ever so casually
pops her out of the
box,
display.
which is pretty common when people are talking about like their geckos or their ball pythons. Never did I ever expect him to just casually pull out a yellow anaconda.
Some vendors have that confidence, man.
And so he's like, oh yeah, talking, pulls her out.
This snake, within 2 seconds of being touched, starts just biting him like crazy.
Yeah. Just like, and he's like literally bleeding on the palm of his hand. And he's just like chatting with us, like, no big deal. I'm like kind of freaking out inside. I've never been bit by a snake. And I was like, oh, this is happening. And you're over here like fangirling. You're like, oh my gosh, like, how old is she? All this.
Yeah, because I know exactly how yellow anacondas move. You know, it's like I
don't.
their,
I was like, you were like up close, and I was like a good foot back behind you, and I'm like,
I know. And the funny part is too, so obviously I work with Tarzan, my yellow anaconda, all the time. I have his body language down to a science, but I will say he was very bitey as a baby, but not nearly as much as this yellow anaconda was. And it just really depends on if the breeder is handling them a lot when they're young. And Tarzan's breeder handled him a lot when he was young. And so I got lucky with that with him, but then I did the work to keep him tame. Yeah. But this one was a fresh baby that has had minimal handling. Yep. So this guy was getting bit. Like I counted at least 3 or 4 bites, maybe 5 or 6.
Yeah. At one point he was like offering his finger to her though. So he was having fun with it.
He was having fun with it. And I was wearing a hat. And so at one point I like got down on her level and was like kind of getting really close to her. And she was like scoping me out with her eyes. And I knew I could tell that she was definitely going to strike, but it will never not make me jump. Like,
yeah, she goes, whatcha?
Yeah, she goes, and I was like, all right. Because I had to remember my hat was closer to her.
Than where you were. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, Tarzan tagged me in the face before.
Yeah, like, I definitely flinched, and again, I was a foot away, so.
I will always flinch. Let's be so for real. I don't care how much experience I have with bitey snakes. I will always be jumpy. It's just my reactions. I just can't.
No, I get it. So I don't think we've ever seen a baby yellow anaconda. We've seen adult yellow anacondas at shows before.
Subadults. We've seen some like
that's a good way to put it.
We've seen some like medium-sized ones. We've seen like
Tinley. We saw the 2 full grown.
The 2 full grown.
That was really cool.
I've also, I think it was what was that one show that we went to? It was really big. I forget what show it was. I can't remember, but we did see somebody handling like an adult, a really big female adult.
Oh, I think that was an NRBC, Arlington.
Okay, maybe. I feel like it was that other one. It's called something else. I don't know. Reptilian Nation.
Oh,
it was that one. It was that one.
We go to a lot of shows, guys.
Regardless, it's hard to remember all of them. But so we've seen like a huge adult, we've seen subadults, but this was the first time that I had seen like baby yellows. Mm-hmm. So I was very excited. It was really cool.
It was at like the end of the show, so it was a nice little like highlight. Another thing we saw at the end of the show, which we don't see often, are newts and salamanders.
Wait, I didn't even talk about the newts.
I know. I love the newts. Like, we have so much.
I love the newts.
Was there anything else?
Oh my God.
Okay, the newts and then the micro geckos. Those were also. So I feel like those are like.
Yeah.
Similar. They're both tiny little boogers, you know.
But I have a tiger salamander, but I would love to get more into like newts and like little salamanders and stuff like that in the future because
they were so cute, and you could tell they just have the derpiest, cutest little smiley faces. Plus, some of the colors on those were stunning.
Mm-hmm. I think it was the fire salamanders.
Yeah, that's the one I have in my head right now. The red and black one.
They're stunning. I mean, I'm just obsessed with those.
And there was like a duckbill frog thing
he was so
that
cute.
we saw.
There were the sirens too. So sirens they're aquatic, but they have 2 tiny little arms, but they basically look like eel. They almost look like small, skinny axolotls with 2 arms.
Oh, that's a good describer.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, but they're so cool. So you don't see those very often.
Much smaller than axolotls.
Way smaller.
Did we even see any axolotls? Did you see any axolotls?
There were a couple, not a lot.
Not many.
Not a lot.
Yeah. So like the variety, like I hope this gives you guys some sort of indication.
We keep remembering things we saw.
Of all these different animals. There's definitely still plenty of tarantulas. I didn't see many like millipedes or things like that.
There were some.
Yeah, but not as many as like.
I also think because we're not quite insect people. We love them. We're super cool, but I do think we tend to not pay as much attention. There was that one really
cool beetle booth, though.
That was crazy.
I don't even know what those things were.
It was huge.
They were gigantic.
Probably the
beetles.
biggest pet beetle I've ever seen.
I have never seen anything like that.
That was wild.
It's like straight out of the Lion King, you know, where there's that scene with that giant beetle.
That's literally what
throwback.
it was.
That's a niche reference. I don't know if anyone's gonna get that reference.
I fully have the picture in my head.
But it wasn't it not just like that beetle?
It was just like that. It was huge.
They were these massive beetles. Those are really cool to see.
Crazy.
We still saw plenty of like supply vendors, like you know, like Josh's Frogs and like all those guys were like
definitely not as many like feeder insects booths.
No, there was a few, but again, I feel like we kind of like move past them because there was like 3 or 4 in like the back, and then there was like a wood vendor, plant vendors, you know, like ones you kind of expect to be there. But
the wood vendor was super cool. There were some like insect art display booths as well, which was super cool.
Not a lot of freeze-dried candy, though.
Yeah, we did. That's a great point, because I would have brought some of that home. Yeah, I didn't see a whole lot of that.
Because the NRBC Dallas show, I don't know what it was, but so many booths.
So much freeze-dried candy. So much.
Like an excessive amount of
I am not mad at. I love candy. That. I love that stuff. I will.
There was like a peanut booth though, like selling.
Candied do we want to talk about food? Because that was a whole thing. Yeah.
So keep in mind, this is at a fair complex, right? So the food options were like
insane.
So they had the classic like hot dog, hamburger, pizza, whatever. But then they had like hot Cheeto covered whatever.
Crazy stuff. They had like all these dessert booths. They had Dole Whip. They had snow cones.
Both days.
Because the Dole Whip booth kept closing early. And I was so mad about that.
And on the second day, I got an ice cream cone for lunch and a snow cone as a treat after. But I get my ice cream cone and I was like, do you want Dole Whip? And you're like, no, I'll get it later.
I can't just eat dessert after every meal like you can. I simply can't.
So I got a twist ice cream cone.
But in hindsight, I should have gotten my Dole Whip then, because I ended up not getting it all weekend, and I'm addicted to Dole Whip. Yeah. So I was upset. But
no, the food options were good. Like the second day, we had these like crazy like ramen. Tacos.
It was a birria, if I'm saying that right. Birria. It's like
you had your egg roll.
I had a birria egg roll, and it was a birria ramen taco, where the taco was made out of ramen noodles. Yeah. It was some of the best food.
So delicious.
It was the best food I've ever had at an expo, hands down.
Yeah. And then the first day I got like a chili hot dog. You got like pizza. Those were both good.
Yeah.
Good as well.
But you mentioned the peanuts. In the middle of the expo, of the reptile side of things, in the middle of it, there was just this huge vendor of like the flavored sweetened nuts and stuff, which was... It smelled incredible every time we walked past it.
It was like prime spot too.
Yeah,
of the expo.
Right in the center, dead center. It was crazy. Yeah. So there were just, honestly, because it was at a fairgrounds, it was one of the coolest food experiences at an expo.
Delicious.
Which was just awesome.
So then one more booth I think we have to talk about is Kammerflage Kreations.
Oh, I'll cry.
Speaking of being in the middle, so you take a moment.
I literally just got teary already.
Kammerflage Kreations is like a really, really well-known panther chameleon breeder. You don't even have to be into chameleons to know the Kammerflage family. They've been doing this for literally generations.
I think since the 80s.
Very long time. They have a very strong reputation in the chameleon hobby. I distinctly remember watching a Kammerflage video, or it was like someone else's Reptile Super Show vlog before I even had Neptune, and recognizing the Kammerflage booth and everything. And then like here we are literally years later, and it was just like a very full circle. And like we have both talked to Brianna Kammer, who's like the daughter of you know the guy who started and all of that, and so like we both going into this, we're like so excited to meet the Kammers.
It was very surreal for me because...
Mixed emotions.
Yeah. So for those of you who know, I had a panther chameleon named Barney. He lived for 7 years, which is a very long time for a chameleon. And he was literally my soul chameleon. He was bred by Kammerflage Kreations. Yes. So I stupidly I was so excited going into the show, knowing that I was going to get to meet Brianna for the first time. Yeah. Because I've been talking via email with Brianna since 2016. For years. Yeah. 2016. I bought Barney in 2016. He was a 2016 baby. And I've been emailing with her and, you know, seeing her on social media. And she followed Barney's whole life on social media. Yep. So, like, I was so excited the whole time.
Instagram was Barney the Chameleon.
And so I was so excited to get to meet her. But it wasn't until we literally walked up to the booth that I immediately just got, like, full of like very weird, surreal, nostalgic, sad, happy feelings. And I walked up and I was like, oh no.
So I walked up and I went, oh no.
Because she realized I was going to feel a type of way.
I didn't even look at you. It just like clicked in my head that like, oh, this could be like a thing for you. And I was like, are you okay? And you're like, I'm okay.
I was okay, but another factor to add to it is that 2 of our listeners or people who follow us on social media had come up to us that day. Love you guys so much. I can't tell you how much this meant to me, but at least 2 people that day had come up to me and like talked to me specifically about Barney, about how sad they were and then they found out that he passed, how they had followed him for all these years, how they missed seeing him, like all these things. So like I had those kind of emotional conversations about it, and then full circle moment of like meeting his breeder for the first time. I just like, I'll cry right now. It was like, it was such like a weird, surreal moment, and I just don't think I'll ever get past it. That was probably like one of the biggest highlights of the weekend for me, just because getting to talk to you guys and finding out how much he resonated with you, because he was my best little friend, and getting to see people who also, you know, felt a type of way about him, and then meeting his breeder who I've chatted with for years.
Yeah. And you could feel like Brianna's like heart and passion and everything for Barney so and like chameleons in general, and then just seeing the little peanuts, like,
and even talking to her dad, who's the one who started their little family business and who's been doing it all these years. Like, even just talking to her dad meant like so much to me. And I was telling him about Barney, and he was I could just see in his eyes like how much it meant to him that somebody who had bought one of their chameleons treasured them as much as I did. Like, you could just
like,
tell.
what more could you want as a breeder for like
that's basically what he said.
Chameleon to like have a home, like he gave Barney.
He literally said that. He was like, "This is literally why we do it. Like, I can't tell you how much that means." And I was like, "I'm just gonna cry." Like, it was just such a special.
Talking to the cameras was definitely one of my highlights.
Big highlight.
And Brianna was so excited to meet with us. She was like very complimentary. She even like was like, "Your chameleon kits, like I took a look at them, like they're absolutely fabulous. Like that means a lot.
That means so much
for me." And just as like your friend who's like seen you go through the graving process with Barney, that was the first time I've seen like a little glimmer of like, because up until this point you've been very adamant of like, I'm not ready, and I still don't think you're ready, and
not
you would
even
agree
close
with
to
that.
ready.
But you're like, up until this point you're like, I don't think I could own a chameleon again, of like living up to the bar that Barney set. But that was the very first. I was very small, this teeny tiny,
it was a glimmer,
glimmer of just you getting excited about chameleons again. And to me, not that like you will ever own a chameleon again, to be determined, but just like I think it's just a step in the healing process. And I think being able to talk to Brianna and being able to talk to the fans who were like so invested in Barney's journey, and it's scary for us to like put our animals and our relationships with them out there on the internet for judgment and scrutiny, and like you shoulda, you coulda, whatever, and then like having to tell you guys that they've passed is like really challenging for us like content creators. But to hear that had a positive impact, or to hear that you were invested in our animals in some way, shape, or form is like a really special thing.
If we keep talking about this, I'm just gonna cry.
But I think that's a good like way to to end on that. So I was just excited for you.
It was
like,
cool
just to see that, just that teensy little
there was specifically
something.
This one baby chameleon that they had at their table that was just this gorgeous red and blue color. I mean, he was crazy, and it definitely, I had a little spark in my eye, you know, just a little bit.
So I guess to wrap up, one thing we wanted to talk about. So we talked about the food. We haven't even talked about the fish or the birds.
Oh my god. This episode's going to be so long.
Okay, so to wrap up at least the reptile piece, and then we'll get into the fish and birds, which will be quick.
That'll be quicker,
So meeting you guys, right? Like this was probably the most we've met, like most people we've met easily at a show before, which was like really cool. It was a good balance of like we got to have time to like have conversations and like get to know people, and I'm always like, what's your chameleon's name, and like they can share their journey and with us, and I think that's really special. But then we also still had time to like walk around and enjoy the show ourselves, which is a nice balance.
It was amazing, and I just like, we can't speak enough about how special it is to get to meet you guys in person, because it's like, I know you say this all the time, but like when we're filming content, we're literally just in like a room by ourselves.
It's literally just you and me and my phone.
Us.
Hello.
And like so it's like getting to meet you guys in person makes it all feel very real.
Yes.
And makes it just feel extra special. And it just, because, you know, sometimes we go to these things and we're like, is anybody even gonna say hi to us? Like, are we even gonna? And so when we get approached by you guys, like it literally just makes it all real for us, and it makes it feel worthwhile, all that we do.
And to hear firsthand, like Someone say like, I got into chameleons because of you. I've been breeding for years, but I reevaluated my care because of you.
I had multiple people telling me, that they switched all their animals to bioactive because of me. And like, I'll sob. It just made me, I'm being such an emotional, it was such a like weird emotional weekend. And I'm like so not an emotional kind of gal, but it was a whole thing.
It's really special because we'd like to think the content we're putting out there. And again, it is not all sunshine and rainbows being on the internet. And like the weekend was not all sunshine and rainbows. But to have those moments with you guys and to feel like what we're doing is worthwhile. And like if we ask both of us individually and then together with this podcast, why do we do what we do? It's for that exact moment.
Literally. It makes
that is the reason.
It makes it all worth it.
Why we do what we do. And so it's just reaffirming, and like you get the comments and you get the DMs, and like those are so special and love getting those.
But there's something different about it happening in person. And just actually getting to like put a face to like the people in our comments and things like that. It's just like it's super special. I just love it.
Yep. So thank you to anyone who came up and said hi to us.
We love you guys.
If you ever see us at a show, say hi. If you see us at Walmart,
don't hesitate.
Maybe just try not to be creepy about it.
Luckily, that has very rarely ever happened.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk fish and birds. Which do you want to do first?
Let's go with birds.
Okay. I wasn't a big fan.
Yeah. It's so funny to me because I feel like most people, one of the questions reptile people get all the time is like, do they smell? Do they smell? The fish and the birds, both of those buildings had a very distinct pungent smell.
As soon as you walked in, it was like, poof, and hit you in the face.
And the reptiles, none.
But I wonder, are we just like used
desensitized to it?
Is there a smell? And we just can't smell it. So the thing with the birds, it was really cool because I've never seen, I said I wasn't a fan. Let me explain. I thought seeing the birds was cool because I'll be honest, the only time I've ever seen birds is at like a Petco or PetSmart and it's like little parakeets or whatever. So this was cool because we got to see like the blue macaw and like these massive parrots and these like little lovebirds and like birds I've never seen before. But it 100% confirmed, which I already knew this, I don't have any interest in owning a bird.
Yeah.
Period.
I don't either. Not that I don't love them. For me, it's the lifespan of it all. Like they
live forever.
Forever.
They're noisy.
Yes.
They require so much attention.
It's like having a human child.
So much attention. They're smelly.
Yeah.
And their little talon feet thing, not a fan. Like, I don't, beaks freak me out. I'm like, and then you were like petting, what was it, like the blue macaw or whatever, and it kind of like flinched, and then I was like, and I kind of flinched, and I was like, I'm not cut out for this.
But it's also, for me, like, I'm more used to the more bitey reptiles, so it doesn't bother me that much. There's a reason why I have
chameleons and a crested gecko, okay? It's very intentional. None of them have long.
No.
People are like, bearded dragon. I'm like, nope. Little nails.
Yeah.
Can't do it.
Yeah. No, but it was, I loved it. It was really cool. They did have a parrot show. So they had like somebody there, and they had like an audience, and they were doing like tricks and talking and flying back and forth. And, you know, the birds were like landing on people's heads, which was really fun. So they had some like really cool stuff. I definitely think one of my like main impressions of it is that it was still pretty small in comparison. Obviously the reptile show has been going on for so many years that it's just a lot bigger. Yeah. So I think it'll grow.
Building for one, but then it just wasn't full. Like that you could have had double the amount of vendors in there in that exact size building, but it also was the first time that they're having the birds.
Exactly.
And same is true for the fish. If you want to switch on to that side, that was a similar size building for the bird building. But again, there was so much empty space in there. They could have like put way more vendors in there.
Which is a good thing because for future shows, as it grows,
it'll absolutely take
it'll
off.
Fill out.
Yeah.
And so, you know, it just being the first time, I think it was just a little on the smaller side. So it'll grow, but it has room to grow, which is a great. It just in general, it just confirms how good of a venue choice that is.
Yes. Yeah, so. The fish were cool. There weren't nearly as many saltwater fish because we've gone to Aquashella, which was a really big just fish aquarium show, and that has tons of saltwater stuff in it. So I think if this works up to being something like that, that could be really wonderful for the hobby.
Yeah.
I've never seen koi fish for sale like that. They were in like these giant like tub things.
Yeah.
The koi fish
I think they were like stock tanks.
Yeah,
kind
that's a good way to put it. And then seeing the goldfish, the really big goldfish.
I loved a chunky goldfish.
I had not seen those at shows before. Yeah. They of course had coral, those popular, a lot of like filtration, stuff like that.
Which is always fun.
Yeah. So I think the fish were cool. A lot of betta. Did I say that right?
Yeah. And
betta fish.
We want to also hype up our girl, P&W Bettas. She is fantastic. So I had messaged her, or she had posted on TikTok that she was going. And so I commented and was like, oh my gosh, like, we'd love to see you.
Yeah.
And she actually ended up getting her very first snake
at
the show.
That's so exciting.
So it was so fun. So not only did we get to meet her in person, we also got to see her new snake and all this stuff and see her booth, which was fantastic.
Yeah.
So it was just really great to get to see her and chat with her about different things. And so that was really fun. But yeah, all in all, I mean, the fish show definitely has room to grow. It was really cool.
Yeah.
You know, but would love to see more saltwater there.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I think it checked like the minimum boxes for like having a good
100%.
Good fish show.
They also had a lot of shrimp there as well, which was super cool. I really enjoyed seeing the little baby shrimp. And I know those are growing in popularity a lot.
Yes.
So.
Okay. So I think I feel good about what we've talked about for the...
Yeah, I feel like that covers it. If there's anything else that pops into our head for later episodes, we'll fill you in. But
okay.
I think those were all the highlights. Yeah.
I have no idea how long we've been talking for. But I think one thing to wrap up maybe where we're at is just we have plans. We have already secured a spot for our very own booth.
I'm so excited.
This is our first time vending. It's going to be at the NRBC Dallas fall show. So we went there. We talked to the guy. We got a booth. We're going to be there. Our name's on the list and everything.
It's online.
While
it's
we
official.
were at this show, we were eyeballing other people's booth, and we've been brainstorming ideas. So I think we could just share some of our initial plans. And then if you guys have any suggestions or things you'd love to see in our booth, like... let us know.
We really want your input because we're trying to make our booth like one of the coolest, most like eye-catching things at the show.
Yeah.
And so while we were walking around at the LA Pet Fair, that's what we were kind of paying attention to is like, oh, that grabbed my attention. Oh, that grabbed my eye. Like, and so we were kind of taking some notes, but we really want your input because it would be extra cool if we can kind of, you know, get some ideas from you guys. And then if you guys are at the show, you can see, you know, how you helped us out.
Yes. So we of course want to do some sort of banner, right? That's pretty standard. Some cool big banner.
And we did talk to a couple of people about like banner vendors. So we're trying to figure that out. And we'll get a big banner for just like the backdrop of everything.
Yes.
And obviously lots of pinks and purples.
Pinks and purples for sure. Make it girly. And then I think we're going to go for a neon sign.
Yes.
Like getting our logo for, I don't know if we want to go all white or if we want to try and have color in it.
I don't know.
What, because I feel like maybe the pink or purple may be difficult to see. So we got to figure that out. Yeah. But if we get this neon sign, do we put it
up here? Up in the middle
of the backdrop?
I think so. Why not?
Our show? Right. So then we have to be thoughtful of the color choice we use. Then like maybe white would be better. You know, we gotta work it out.
I know the
neon
green
signs are cool.
The green neon signs pop, but that's obviously not one of our main colors. So well, maybe white, but
I feel like white is what I'm leaning towards.
Me too.
We'll cross that bridge when we get to it. So I think we need some sort of cool neon sign. We want to do new merch design. So if you guys don't know, we do have a merch shop, but it's with our podcast logos in the classic pink and purple, but also black and white. Yeah. But we want to come out with some new designs. So we're already brainstorming.
We've got a couple fun ideas. Yeah. But if there are any like quotes or sayings or anything that you guys think that are fun or anything that's like specific to like the Reptile Girly brand that we're trying to kind of build, let us know what you think.
Yeah. And so then we can do cute stickers based off of like the merch designs. That could be really cool. And then one thing we want to try and do is a live show.
Yeah.
At the booth.
And not only just a live show, but like potentially with guests.
Yeah.
Which we don't usually do.
And coordinating.
I know. But it'll be nice because there's always people at the shows that we could maybe bring on. So that's something we're considering.
Yeah. But do they have to be a reptile girly? Can they be a reptile guy-y? That's not right. So like different guests we could potentially bring on. Like how do we bring our podcast setup to a public?
Do we need to buy a third mic? Like that's a whole thing.
We have guests. We definitely got to bring a third mic. So we're brainstorming. So let us know if you guys have any ideas or anything you like to see for very first booth, but we're excited.
Keep us posted. My only other thought is plants. I want at least like a couple
Some
of plants
greenery.
there. Just little pops of greenery.
Mm-hmm,
but any other ideas, let us know. We are open to any and all suggestions.
Yeah, we just want it to be this slick booth that people go, whoa.
Yeah.
What's that?
We want to draw attention, catch eyes. Like that's the whole point.
Yeah.
So.
Cool.
I'm pumped.
Well, I think that wraps up the episode.
I feel like, I mean, we covered everything. There was so much.
So much. so much. So be on the lookout for the next show that we will be at. We will let you guys know ahead of time when and where we will be, but we will definitely be back for the Reptile Super Show.
Totally.
The LA Pet Fair, maybe we'll have to check out a different location for the show. That'd be really cool.
I really want to go to Tinley again too. So keep your eyes peeled. There's definitely
we have Tinley in the works. We've got a couple other shows in the works. Animal Con in the works. Like we've got a lot of things coming up. So we will let you know as plans get finalized. As always, you can subscribe over on YouTube. You can give us a rating review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts.
Follow each of us individually if you aren't already. We have Lyssa's Lizards and
Neptune and Chameleon. And you can follow the podcast at The Wild Type Podcast on all things social.
Yeah.
Otherwise, that is a wrap on the LA Pet Fair recap episode. I think we did a good job.
I think so too.
So
we will catch you guys next time.
Yeah. Bye.